South Jersey's play-by-play home for the Eagles,
Touchdown!
Sixers,
Oh, yeah!
and Flyers.
He scored!
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
Oh, what a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN as the 76ers have officially moved on to the second round of the NBA playoffs, and they will face the Atlanta Hawks. How about that? So you got Hawks, Sixers in the next round. Maybe not the matchup that we all thought there would be, but we knew the Sixers would at least get to the second round. So we got a lot to get to with that. Also, I got a very cool guest today for you guys, Matt Whitecross. He is the director of a brand new documentary coming out starting this week. It's a 4-part documentary about basically the golden age, what some people say, of boxing, which was the late 70s and early 80s, the post-Muhammad Ali era of boxing, when Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, and Roberto Duran basically dominated not just the boxing world, but the sports world. And I've already gotten a sneak preview of it. It's incredible. So I'm looking forward to talking with Matt about that documentary coming up at 6:20 tonight. But first, we got to talk some Sixers. We got to talk some Eagles. Text board is open, 609-403-0973 for all of you listening on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. And, of course, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where you can watch the show. Just follow 97.3 ESPN on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So, a couple takeaways from the game last night. And I mentioned this last night on Twitter. I don't think that we are fully appreciating two things that happened last night. The first thing that happened was the Sixers defense showed up. It seems like every time the Sixers defense shows up in a game, they win it. And I don't think that's a coincidence. When you removed Rui Hachimure's 8 for 13 shooting last night, the rest of the Wizards had only 46% field goal shooting percentage. Sixers had 9 steals and 6 blocks. This team was built to have success when they play defense. When they don't play defense is when they seem to have the most problems. It's not a coincidence. It's not just a random incident. No, this is a team that's built on playing defense. And whether Joel Embiid is out there or not, the reality is that when they play good perimeter defense that translates into slowing down and shutting down certain things, you have a reality that, guess what? You can win a lot of basketball games. I've told you guys before, you can't name me a team that has won an NBA championship who didn't play defense, okay? Who didn't have some good perimeter defenders, who wasn't able to go out there and get the job done consistently on the other end of the floor. We conveniently forget that in that game 7, when LeBron had the huge block of Andre Iguodala and Kyrie Irving at the game-winning jump shot, both teams played elite defense that fourth quarter. They were just shutting each other down. Drive in, drive out, possession in, possession out. It was a defensive stalemate, and it took the LeBron James block and the Kyrie Irving shot to elevate the Cavs emotionally to finish out that game. So for the Sixers, I'm not promising you they're going to win an NBA championship, but I'm telling you that they are on the path to success by playing good defense. And you saw it last night, because when you had Matisse Thybulle starting, it was a clear message from Doc Rivers and this coaching staff that we are not going to get away from what got us here. We are not going to get away from the defensive side of the ball to put us in this position to be successful. The other takeaway from the game last night is, isn't it convenient that role players play better at home. You know, Seth Curry had a big game last night. But are we really surprised? I've told you guys this before. Players like Seth Curry, role guys who have a specific place in the offense, guys who are not superstars, they always play better at home. Always. And they had this stat last night on SportsCenter. The 76ers are now 17-0 when Seth Curry scores at least 15 points. 17-0. I mean, that's just insane. So, Seth Curry is not a guy who creates his own shot very much. He's a guy who's dependent on the players around him for his own ability to have success. And that's where the Sixers have a chance to be successful in the second round. You're not going to stop Trae Young. I'm not going to sit here and play some silly game that some people want to play about who's going to stop Trae Young. No one's stopping Trae Young. Just like no one's stopping Bradley Beal. Nobody's stopping Kevin Durant. No one's stopping Steph Curry from the Warriors. No one is stopping Devin Booker. All you can hope to do is slow them down and limit their touches. So with that in mind, that's the Sixers' key to success. The Sixers' key to success is to go out there and say, look, Trae, you do you. Trae, you're going to go out, you're going to dominate, you're going to put up a gazillion shots, you're going to put buckets in our eyes, you're going to shush the crowd, you're going to do all kinds of stuff. We get it. That's who you are. You are a budding superstar in this league. You know, that Luka Trae Young trade is looking better and better every day because Trae Young is a perfect fit for the Hawks franchise, and Luka Doncic is a perfect fit for the Mavs franchise. And it's very obvious that Trae Young is in front of our eyes growing into one of the top 10 players in the NBA today. You don't stop that guy. But what you can do is slow down the rest of the team. I think that, as I've said before, is the key. One of the problems with the supposed defensive genius that is Tom Thibodeau. Tom Thibodeau loves to play team defense. He loves to attack the other team's best players. The problem with that strategy is, as we saw in Chicago, as we saw in Minnesota, as we're now seeing in New York, is that if the other team's best player is on a superstar level, you're going to lose. But if you're the Sixers and you look at Kevin Huerter, Clint Capella, Bogdan Bogdanović, you look at John Collins, you look at these other players, Danilo Gallinari, DeAndre Hunter. These are all players who realistically are not going to be elite scorers. Lou Williams probably going to get some good buckets. He'll probably have a couple big nights in the playoffs because Lou Williams can just get points in his sleep. But the other guys on this team, they are not guys who get their points on their own traditionally. John Collins is a phenomenal athlete, and him and Trae Young play a great pick and roll. But what if you take away that pick and roll from Trae Young? Then what happens? Bogdanović, Gallinari, they're catch and shoot guys. Kevin Huerter can be a nice setup guy, but he's not going to go out there and dominate offensively. The number 2 and 3 options for the Hawks are not exactly elite players. So as I look at it, if you're the Sixers, and we know that Doc Rivers is capable of doing this because we've seen him do it in Boston, in Orlando, and with the Clippers. If you stop the other players on the team from having success, and you just say, look, the best player on their team is going to get 30 to 40 points. I don't care. I'm going to stop everyone else. That's how you beat the Hawks. Now, if the Sixers can execute that for more than 4 games at a time, that's the bigger question. Because I don't think that the Sixers can win this series in 5-6 games. I think it's going to be a 7-game series. I think if the Sixers have a chance to win, it's going to be on the defensive end of the floor. Because when you stop the other team from scoring, it gives you more opportunities to score yourself. Simple. It's basketball. It's not rocket science. 609-403-0973 is the text board to get on the conversation right here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. We're also live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where you can comment as you watch the show. Just follow 97.3 ESPN and watch the show on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Matt Whitecross is going to join us coming up at 6:20 talking about the new documentary on Showtime starting this weekend, The Kings, about the golden age of boxing. And I want to have the conversation with Matt because people forget about history. History is so easily forgotten about in sports. Everyone today is the best they've ever seen. And let me tell you something. If guys like Floyd Mayweather or Canelo or any of these guys would have had to go through the 80s dealing with guys like Leonard and HEARNS and HAGLER and DURÁN, they would not have spotless records. I can guarantee you that. I want to get to a little Eagles news as well because to people, some people, this might not be a big deal. But Devonta Smith signed his rookie deal today. So he's got the job security. He got the bonus. He's got the rookie money up front. Good for him. All good. But it's his answer to the question. He spoke to the media today and they asked him, hey, Devonta, what do you do with your rookie contract money? And guys usually answer, buy my mom a house, buy myself a car, whatever. I'm going to do so. They all say they're going to do something with the money, right? Not that those things are bad things, okay? Listen, it's your money. If you want to go buy a house, you want to go buy a car, you want to go buy some bling, that's your right. That's your prerogative. But he gave a different answer. When Devonta Smith was asked what he's going to do with the rookie contract money that he just got from the Philadelphia Eagles, he said, put it in the bank. So now you have a quarterback who believes in the rent being due every day. You have a rookie wide receiver that believes that I'm just going to put the money in the bank and be smart about my money. You have a guy in Greg Ward who doesn't think he's earned anything yet. A guy in Jalen Reagor with a chip on his shoulder. Lane Johnson, Brandon Brooks, they got a chip on their shoulder. I'm going to keep saying that they can't play anymore, right? Mailata and Dillard going into a competition at left tackle. Jason Kelsey wants to go out there and prove he's still one of the best in the league. New head coach, new coordinators. You got a lot of guys who seem to have the right mentality when it comes to their situation. We don't always value maturity. We don't always value professionalism. We don't always value the character of these people who get onto a football field, who go onto a basketball court or whatever sport it is. The maturity and the mentality, who they are above the shoulders, is as important, if not more important, than anything else when it comes to success, not just in sports, but in life. And if Devonta Smith's mentality, when it comes to his business, his financial situation, is to turn around and say, hey, man, I'm going to put my money away. I'm going to be responsible. I'm not going to be frivolous. I'm not going to sit out there and go crazy with my money. I'm going to be smart about this. If that's his go-to answer, oh, man, let me tell you something. This young man is the find of the draft for the Eagles because they need these kind of people in the building. It was the quality of the locker room and the leadership in the locker room that made the 2017 Eagles into Super Bowl champions. If you want to be a winning, successful organization, you got to get as many mature, professional, competent, self-driven, self-motivated people on your football team. And Devonta Smith fits that profile. And I love seeing it. By the way, we are less than 100 days away from the start of the NFL season. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Again, text board is open for you at 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. We're also live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We'll get to your thoughts and comments a little bit later in the hour as we do each and every show here on 97.3 ESPN FM. But coming up next, the documentary is called The Kings. The director is Matt Whitecross. He joins us next. Get a little bit of sports history right here on Game Night with yours truly, Josh Hennig. 97.3 ESPN FM. Don't forget the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It is free thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle City.
The NBA playoffs continue.
Final score, Phoenix by 30. Suns 115 and the Lakers 85.
LeBron James and the defending champion Lakers sit on the brink of elimination, down 3-2. Will they survive a must-win Game 6? Or will the Suns move on to the conference semifinals?
We got to be better, obviously, if we want to force a Game 7.
The NBA playoffs, exclusively on 97.3 ESPN FM. Coverage begins at 10 p.m.
You asked for it. You got it. Fast Track Checkout at either Matt Blatt Kia location. Buy it your way. Complete your purchase online or have us deliver it during the Trade Up to a Kia sales event at Matt Blatt Kia in Egg Harbor Township or Toms River. 0 money down and 0% financing for up to 60 months on every 2021 Kia Soul, Sportage, or Forte. Plus, we need your trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Get out of that old car you hate with 0 down payment and 0% APR financing available for up to 60 months. Try Fast Track Checkout. Purchase completely online and have us deliver right to your home or office. Only at Matt Blatt Kia, where you can't make a mistake with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
Offers for the Proof Tier 1 or 2 credit through Kia Motors Finance. Not all will qualify. 0% based on 1667 for 1,000 borrowed. Negative equity financed into new loan. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details. Expires 7/6/2021. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. And now on Route 37 in Toms River.
PropSwap is the #1 app to buy and sell sports bets. Derek from Galloway made $800 cash just from buying and selling sports bets on PropSwap. Basketball, baseball, hockey. Just buy a future bet, hold it for a few weeks, then sell it for big profit. And if you're a buyer looking for better odds than what a sports book can offer, there's never been a better time to join PropSwap. As new users right now, get a free $100 match bonus. But hurry, the offer expires soon. Check out PropSwap.com or download the PropSwap app today.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, as always, we'll get to your thoughts and comments a little bit later in the hour. Text board 609-403-0973. We're also live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We're joining us right now on the Boardwalk Hunter Hotline. I have got a sneak preview of the Kings, which is coming up on Showtime starting this weekend. And honestly, it is exactly what I hoped it would be. It is, in my opinion, the golden era of boxing. Leonard, DURÁN, HAGLER, HEARNS, and the director joining us right now on the Boardwalk Hunter Hotline, Matt Whitecross here on 97.3 ESPN. Matt, how you doing today? Matt, your mic is muted, so that's on your end. If you could just click that little mic button over there for me.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go. We got you now. How you doing, Matt?
Maybe you can hear me. I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Okay, so we are going to have to adjust. I'm going to bring Matt down just for a minute here. I'm going to just type the Matt here on the side. That would be in his mic settings. So on the bottom. Oh, Matt, what to do here. Just change the output of your. It goes to the headset. So when he gets that fixed, we'll bring Matt up right here because we got the video, we got his microphone, but we don't hear, he doesn't hear me. So once we get Matt set up there, we will be good to go. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. So a little detail about this Showtime documentary. So Showtime, obviously they're known for some great documentaries. The doc is called The Kings. People may or may not remember the era that was Leonard, HEARNS, HAGLER, and DURÁN. And the reason why people might not remember it is because, they weren't heavyweights. And I think that we forget that sports is not always about one group of athletes. It's about all the athletes. And some of the best athletes are those type of athletes. So, we have a situation where when you look at way it works out there. I believe we have Matt back on here this weekend, Showtime. Now, I got to figure out which stream is Matt here because I got two of you. So, Matt, bear with me for a sec. You can hear me. Give me a thumbs up. All right, we got you now. Matt, you good now?
I'm all good.
All right, we got you. That's always a positive. So, Matt, first of all, what I was saying is that, to me, this documentary is so important because people forget about the history of sports, the history of how, the athletes were back then. It gets forgotten about so often. And to me, this era was not just reflective, as you guys put in the documentary, about the era of sports, the era of America, but it was a reflection of the evolution of athletes in general. So before we get into the nitty-gritty details, tell me, what was it about this project that fascinated you and drew you to it?
Well, there's so many things, really. What I loved about the take the producers of Showtime had on it was that it was about the four kings, but they wanted to take their story and then talk about that decade as well, talk about the 80s. And yeah, like you said, talk about that evolution, because when they were coming in, if you think about Muhammad Ali is this great icon now, was a civil rights leader, all these kind of things we know about him. But also, he was struggling, struggling financially, partly as a result of the stand he took. He was advertising roach spray. That was the biggest gig he ever got. And then you have Sugar Ray Leonard coming in, and suddenly he's advertising 7-Up, and he's making, big bucks. He's making 40 grand on his first fight. He's making $1 million for his first championship title fight. So everything changed, and really that paved the way for Michael Jordan and so on. So yeah, it's a moment of transition. And I think something's gained in that process, obviously for the fighters and the promoters, but something probably lost as well.
One of the things that fascinates me, because the little bit I've watched so far, because I've only gotten through about the first episode so far in the sneak peek that I was set, and that is you guys talk about how all four of these men come from such different backgrounds. Leonard, Hearns, Hagler, DURÁN. I mean, these were not monolithic characters. These were individuals who had such unique backgrounds. And to me, that's what makes it so unique. And that is, people forget that it's the colors, the variety that makes things the stories that they are. And you wouldn't have this era of boxing if it wasn't for who these guys were outside of the ring.
No, for sure. It's funny because I think they often get talked about as a group. Actually, any one of them you could make a 10-part miniseries about very easily. They had such rich, incredible lives. The arc of each of them, the highs were dizzying, the lows were really, really, they plummeted right to rock bottom, each of them. So they really do anything you wanted with it. But then there's something about the four of them together, different kind of story. And can you still see me? Am I still in there?
We got you. Yep.
Hi, Josh. Yeah, we got you. So I think there was something for me that the challenge and also the promise of it was, how can you try and tell four stories and the story of America at that time and the story really of Latin America and make it feel like one story. And at times we slightly lost our path. I remember talking to Bob Arum at one point. He was like, no, you got it all wrong. There's no point in involving politics. This is boxing. And I had a little bit of soul searching that night. I was like, maybe he's right. But we stuck to our guns, and I think I'm really glad that was the take we had from the beginning.
It's funny you mentioned that with Bob Arum, because my favorite story of the first episode was the fact that Ted Kennedy and Tipo Leo call Bob Arum and threaten him that if he doesn't get their constituent into a title fight, they were going to bring him in front of Congress. So it's ironic that Arum's the one who's sitting there saying, "Oh, there shouldn't be politics." Arum, it took politics for you to do the right thing.
Yeah, I think that was Hagler all over. And the thing is, I sympathize, even though I'm a fan, of course, we all want to say the promoter should go out there and do the right thing and put these guys out there. On the other hand, it's a business, right? And Hagler just didn't have the image. I think Arum and King were fighting tooth and nail to be the ones who pushed Leonard. But when it came to Hagler just wasn't box office at that point. Later on, he was. But initially, no one really wanted to stick their neck out. And, I think Hagler took it all personally, as you would. And he was the whole thing was the system was against him. But I think partly it was just he wasn't marketable at that time. That came later.
Matt Whitecross joining us here on the Boardwalk on the Hotline. The documentary starting this Sunday is called The Kings. It is a 4-part doc about 4 of the greatest fighters of all time. You could argue they're 4 just absolute legends: Leonard, Hearns, Hagler, and of course, DURÁN. Matt, one of the things I want to ask you about also with this doc is, was there any moment when working on this that you may have gotten, you mentioned Arum said, hey, I don't want the politics shouldn't be in there. Was there any other pushback by anybody about any of the aspects of the storytelling or the stories that you guys wanted to bring to the forefront?
Not really. I mean, I was surprised. I think when we had the first conversation with Vinny and Steven at Showtime, they said, no, we want politics to be part of it. We want the social backdrop. But I've talked like that to financiers in the past, and then everyone starts getting cold feet. But luckily, they never did. Then, you start asking questions. I think it's my job to go in there and sit down with everyone from the boxers to the promoters to the trainers to the pundits and ask tough questions. And I was amazed at how honest and open people were. I think even the first question I asked every single person we met a lot of people, was, look, boxing is loved by so many people, but it also gets a bad press. It can be immense. It can lift people up from poverty, but it can also destroy them. Let's talk about it. Let's give it its day in court. And every single person admitted to kind of having very ambivalent feelings. These are people who've lived their life by boxing. And every single one of them was like, yep, absolutely. It means everything to me, but I feel very uncomfortable with it as well. And so that's something we wanted to explore. But again, I thought we'd get pushback on that. And at the end, we decided in the first episode to finish it with 5-6 minutes, just where we talk about boxing. Why is it that we fight? Why is it we're fascinated by it? Why is it we watch it? Should we watch it? And go all the way back to the beginnings of boxing. And I thought at some point someone was going to say, no, you got to cut that. That's not part of the story. But they never did. So no, we were lucky.
And that's the thing, for example, I enjoy boxing, but for me as a diehard, I love mixed martial arts. And one of the things that MMA has done so well is they really promote and they make a star out of anybody who gets a belt on their shoulder, right? And boxing didn't really do that for a very long time. And it's interesting because MMA also has its own dark side, the early years of the UFC in Japan. So, but it's not without the dark side that you don't get the good times. You can't appreciate one without the other. And I think that's something you guys are doing with this documentary. You're saying, look, we're going to give you everything, the positive, the negative. Like the analogy you guys made between Sugar Ray Leonard and Ronald Reagan, I thought was just ingenious, because you're saying, look, we're not making a political statement. We're helping people understand there's an image that comes with the presentation here.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And I think, it's interesting because there's something I think unique in fighting, whether it's MMA, whether it's, there's something about two people going alone into a ring, into a space, and fighting each other, which is somehow is different to any other sport. I think, I think you don't have a team behind you. You really are on your own, unlike any other thing. And it's not like you're going in there to be faster. You're going in there to survive. So I think the way that these people end up symbolizing something, and when Teddy Atlas, the first time I met him, he said boxing is a metaphor for life. And I was like, that sounds right to me, So I don't think it's too much to then extrapolate and say, well, maybe there's a connection to politics. Maybe there's a connection between Leonard and Reagan, who are both trying to part of the kind of emblematic of this new era of the 80s that's coming in, where it's more surface. Maybe it's more to do with the way you present yourself rather than about some kind of integrity. And the same kind of thing for the others. They all embody different elements of that era for me, which I think, as we were doing it, I was like, is this going to work or not? Are people going to like this? Are the boxing fans going to hate it because there's too much social backdrop? Are there people who don't like boxing not going to come to it anyway? But, it's an experiment. We'll find out on Sunday.
Of course, it is the Kings this Sunday on Showtime. The director, Matt Whitecross, joining us here on the Boardwalk on the Hotline here on 97.3 ESPN. You mentioned Teddy Atlas. I mean, you guys got all kinds of great people that you interviewed and talked to for this documentary. Was there a specific person or a story that stood out to you more than the others, or maybe impacted you more than the others?
Well, there were so many amazing people who contributed. So, the Al Bernsteins of the world, Steve Harvard, all these incredible people who I've read about. I've been reading their work for years. Jerry Eisenberg, Bonnie Greer. And we wanted to create a kind of tapestry of different people talking to each other, not having talking heads, but having people just speak over the footage. It was funny because I think in terms of stories, you go through a process of the research where you hear a lot of the stories, and sometimes they're conflicting stories, and then you meet the real people themselves. So it wasn't like there was anything that surprised me particularly. It was more to do with the way that people presented themselves, and I think like a kind of honesty that I haven't seen in other industries. And there was a kind of, and people, maybe it's because it's been so long now, it's been so many decades, people are willing to revisit the past and talk about things as they were. I mean, I think when you're sitting down with someone like Roberto Duran, there is no filter. Like, he lives absolutely in the present. He'll tell you anything you want. There's no holds barred. Other people probably would keep their cards a little bit more close to their chest, but luckily they, I think enough time's passed. And the same thing with Tommy Hearns. Spending time with him, sometimes it's interesting that you end up having to remind people about their own lives. You say, well, look, they go, no, I don't think that happened. It's in your autobiography. So I'm assuming it happened. Oh, yeah, it did happen, But no, they were very honest with us.
You mentioned about the time that's passed. As a director, do you feel that it is easier sometimes? There is a certain amount of buffer time between the era you're talking about and then the entity that's telling about the storytelling of the era. Like, how do you feel about the buffer time? Because I know you've done a lot of different docs, a lot of different subject matters, and some of those subject matters, they've been very current. They've been very immediate in their manner. I've going through the things that you've worked on, whereas other things like this, there's a huge amount of time that's lapsed.
Yeah, I think it's helpful. I think the time passing is helpful for me personally, because people have had enough time to take stock of their lives. And I think also they're looking back on that time. There's a kind of legacy. These guys are now, some of them in their 60s and their 70s. They want to go back, and I think they want to pass on this message and the story to another generation. So this definitely felt like it was timely in that sense. I've worked on other stuff where, it's happening in front of you. I'm working on a project about the Paralympics right now, and it's happening in real time. We're speaking every single day, and everything they're saying to us is like, well, they don't know for a fact whether the Paralympics is going ahead. They don't know whether they're going to be in it. All these different factors changing. That has its own kind of issues. That's a different kind of project. But yeah, for me, it was just a privilege. I'd grown up with some of these stories, but I didn't really know all the inside story of the Four Kings. And coming into it as an outsider, not being from the boxing world, it was just a privilege. I just hope if we do one thing with this show, it's to try and pass on these stories to the next generation so people can see what was so special about the 80s.
You mentioned you're not part of the boxing world, but you're also not from America. How did that impact? I mean, it's not a negative though. Maybe an outsider perspective gives us some clarity, right? Boxing is so, it's not American, but it is American in a strange way. And you guys mentioned at one point, hey, Ali was the only American champion. In today's world, there's a lot of champions in all sports. I mean, look at the NBA. Half the NBA is all people from Europe, basically. So, how did looking at American boxing from a legitimate outsider, how do you think that may have actually helped you?
Yeah, well, it's a great question, and I think I have imposter syndrome every time I start on any new project, but especially on this one, which is very specifically an American project. And, I'm coming in as a limey, asking all these questions and saying, and it's presumptuous anyway to ask strangers about their lives, really intimate details, often kind of some things to do with devastating moments in their lives. Yeah, I'm hoping it came across that we were genuine and we spent time and we'd spent a lot of time researching it. And so when you finally get the chance to sit down with Roberto or Tommy and, get them to tell you their story, I think they knew we were coming from a good place. And I like to think, exactly like you said, the outsider status helped. And maybe I'm asking sometimes on occasion naive questions, but maybe that's a good thing, because then they go, okay, fine, well, let's start with the basics. With Roberto, like my family is Argentinian. So I think it helped. We've spoken Spanish. So then there's a certain barrier that's removed. But aside from that, I know I have it on music projects as well. The last couple of things we've done with music projects and I'm not a musician, and I kind of go in there and I probably ask a lot of dumb questions, but sometimes they hit the nail on the head because they force people to look at things a little bit differently. But we'll see. I mean, I think I was amazed at how gracious and open everyone was about it. Like you said, we're a bunch of strangers who've come over with good intentions, but not necessarily with a reputation that would immediately kind of show us as being the right people to do this project. And that's part of the faith that Showtime had in us and the boxing community had in us. They really embraced us.
The documentary is called The Kings. It is Leonard, Hagler, HEARNS, DURÁN. Starts this Sunday on Showtime. He is Matt Whitecross, and as all guests, he joined us here on the Boardwalk kind of hotline. Matt, appreciate you jumping on what I've seen so far. I love what I've seen so far, and I'm looking to see all the rest play out for the next few weeks.
Thank you so much, Josh. Thanks for having me on.
Josh Hennig here.
Thanks, Josh.
On Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Again, Matt Whitecross. The documentary is The Kings. And like I said, what I've seen so far, the first episode, it's absolutely what I hoped it would be, because going back in history, retelling these stories, bringing them back into the present day, it's so important, and that people forget about history. They forget about the dynamics, the cultural dynamics, the sport dynamics. As he mentioned, Sugar Ray Leonard laid the foundation, the groundwork for Jordan and Nike. He laid the groundwork for Bo Jackson. He laid the groundwork for the modern athlete. So these are all things that you're going to get from this documentary. The King starts this Sunday on Showtime. I'm certainly looking forward to it. And of course, Matt Whitecross, as all guests, appeared on the Boardwalk Honda hotline. We'll get back to you guys' thoughts and comments. 609-403-0973 is the text board next here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. And we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where you can watch the show and comment. Just follow 97.3 ESPN.
It's Sixers playoff basketball Sunday afternoon right here on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McInnes, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Maxey steals the ball. Maxey on the run with Westbrook there, and he jammed it.
It's Sixers Hawks Game 1 Sunday afternoon. Coverage begins at 1 p.m. It's Philadelphia 76ers playoff basketball, and it's only on South Jersey's official Sixers station. 97.3 ESPN.
Attention New Jersey, Matt Blatt Nissan needs to replenish their pre-owned inventory. They will buy your vehicle for cash today. You heard right. Matt Blatt Nissan will buy your current vehicle for cash or trade it for top dollar and put zero down payment, pay 0% interest, and get $2,500 off MSRP on every 2021 Nissan Murano in stock.
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
All new loaded SV model 2021 Nissan Rogue. Lease just $239 per month with zero security deposit. Plus our fast track checkout. Bring any vehicle and Matt Blatt Nissan will buy it for cash or pay top dollar for any trade in Egg Harbor Township next to Home Depot or online at mattblattnissan.com. David Beckley will be refinanced into new vehicle with qualifications exist. Not all will qualify. 0% APR financing based on 1667 per thousand borrowed. Offers can be combined. Murano VIN MC 101371. Rogue VIN MW 011224. 36 month 10,000 miles for your lease. Lease selling price $28,590. Call 877-289-6670 or go to mattblattnissan.com for complete details. Offer ends 5/31/21. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
If you own a small business, you know how hard it can be to find new customers. Now, Town Square Media has new tools that can help your business stand out and grow. Go to GetLocalCustomersNow.com for a free competitive analysis that will show you what other businesses are doing to find new customers and how you can do it too with Town Square Media. Be one of the first business owners to sign up and receive $500 in free advertising on this station. Start growing your business today. Visit GetLocalCustomersNow.com. That's GetLocalCustomersNow.com.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. We'll get to your thoughts and comments next. Of course, we open the show talking about the Sixers versus the Hawks, about Devonta Smith and the Eagles. 609-403-0973 is the text board. We're also live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. You can watch the show and comment. Just follow 97.3 ESPN to catch the sports bash with Mike Gill, as well as Game Night with Josh Hennig Monday through Friday on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app as well. Powered by First Bank of Seattle. Don't forget Game Night being brought to you by friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel Sportsbook is your home for same-game parlays, all NBA playoffs long, and with all kinds of unique and special odds boost opportunities to get more money out of every game day. Your same-game parlays, you can get up to $10 back every single day. That's risk-free same-game parlays. You can only get them with FanDuel Sportsbook. Sign up with my promo code Hennig to get in on all of the action. That is promo code Hennig when you sign up with FanDuel Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older to play. Risk-free real money wager is site credit and expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See sportsbook.fanduel.com for full details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And right here on 97.3 ESPN, we will have the Lakers-Suns game, but that's a game that I don't like too much when it comes to if you want to get some skin in the game tonight. I actually prefer the Nuggets-Blazers game. Here's why. The Nuggets are 0-3 in closeout games. That's right. 0-3 when they have a chance to win a playoff series in recent years under Mike Malone. So what does that mean? Well, what that means is that you have to look at this game and say that the Blazers, there's a reason why they're a -5 favorite. I think the Blazers win tonight. And if you want to go with a same game parlay for tonight's game, the easiest thing to do is take Damian Lillard, combine it with the Blazers money line, and to throw one more in there, because in order for you to get your bet back, you have to have a 3-leg or more parlay for your same game parlay for tonight's game. Personally, I would go a little different direction for the third wager on tonight's game. I would go with CJ McCollum. That's right. CJ McCollum has had some very good games in this series. So go with him to score more than 20, Lillard to score 30 or more, and the Blazers to win the game outright. That's your 3 legs you need to get your risk-free bet. And if you don't win tonight, you can get the $10 back with FanDuel Sportsbook. Again, the promo code is Hennig. And listen, I think that I don't think it's a coincidence that the Eastern Conference series are done and the Western Conference is still going on. And it's not just because the schedule played out this way. It's because of the fact that the matchups in the East were always going to be very decidedly one-sided. Nobody in their right mind thought the Wizards were going to beat the Sixers. Nobody in their without Jaylen Brown was going to beat or even have a chance against the Nets. And most people thought that the Bucks Heat series would be competitive, but the Bucks would win. Nobody thought they would just sweep them and out of the postseason altogether, but it did happen. And the Eastern Conference second round is already set. That's why the Sixers have a 1 o'clock start time this Sunday, because we already know one half of the entire postseason bracket. Now, tonight's going to determine the rest. Game 6 in both series, I know the Nuggets have the lead, but I'm just feeling Portland is going to advance this. I just think Portland, they're back at home. They're going to find a way to get this done. The Lakers-Suns game is a complete up in the air because when I look at this Lakers Suns, I don't know what version of Lakers I'm going to get because first of all, Anthony Davis is a game time decision. So who knows what exactly is going to happen with the Lakers in that manner. But number two, we all thought LeBron James would come out there on fire, motivated, put his team on his back and carry them in that game. And instead, he and the whole team came out flat in that game 5. They were embarrassing to watch. It was so embarrassing. People were saying on Twitter that TNT should switch the Lakers Suns game to NBA TV and put the Blazers Nuggets game, which went in the 2 overtimes, which the rest of the planet was watching at the time. They should put that on TNT. But, contractual obligations, blah, blah, blah. It happens. So now you have both games on TNT tonight. They moved back the Portland start time. So now it's a 5 p.m. start time in Portland for this game. And a 7:30 start time in Los Angeles for the Lakers game. It's another question. How is that going to impact the game tonight? But hey, it's going to be fun to watch. I'm looking forward to it. I'm very curious to see how these games play out. I don't even know what's going to happen at Lakers games. I don't even know. I can't trust the Lakers at this point, but I can't trust Phoenix either because if the best version of LeBron James shows up, if the best LeBron James we've seen in 2021 shows up tonight, the Lakers win the game, whether Anthony Davis is on the court or not. But if LeBron James has another dud and he doesn't show out like he can, Suns win the game. They move on. Man, tonight's going to be very fascinating. We're going to find out which superstars and which teams really won it because Dame Lillard did everything he could to help his team win the other night, and they still lost. Denver was the better team in game 5, but Lillard was the best player on the floor. Does Portland come out and play better at home and get this to a game 7? I think they do. Lakers, Suns, I just can't bet against LeBron James at home in a game 6. I think that goes to a game 7 as well. And of course, you can hear Lakers Suns tonight. Coverage begins at 10 p.m. right here on 97.3 ESPN tomorrow night. Coverage begins at 8:30 for Mavs Clippers game 6 as well. You're home for Sixers basketball and the NBA Finals here on 97.3 ESPN FM. All right. Couple comments came in. I want to get to one specific one that came in earlier. Rodney, watching on YouTube, the show, Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, says, I'm confident the Sixers coaching staff will scheme defensively as good as any team in the league with or without Embiid because Dan Burke was the defensive coordinator for Nate McMillan when they were in Indiana. It's an excellent point by Rodney bringing up because Dan Burke and his familiarity with Nate McMillan can definitely be a strong positive in the corner of the Sixers in this series. Also, I think it's fair to say the Sixers have a better overall coaching staff. Nate McMillan was an assistant, got promoted to the head coach. Doc Rivers has a who's who on that bench. You mentioned Dan Burke. He's got Sam Cassell, who's won NBA championships, has been around the league for a very long time. He knows the game. You have, oh my goodness, what is his name? I just drew a blank on the one Sixers coach's name. The offensive coordinator, as they call it. Dave Yeager. Yeager's a very good coach. He is one of the best X and O coaches in the league. And if I'm to believe that Doc Rivers is the championship coach that we've all been told, and that Dan Burke and Yeager and all these guys are really as smart as we think they are, then I think that you can win this series. It just might take 6-7 games because you don't have Embiid. If Embiid was fully healthy and out there, they win the series in 5 or 6, in my opinion. But no Embiid means you have to adjust, right? And part of adjusting is understanding that you got to scheme, as Rodney says on YouTube, and plan for this series to not go as planned. There's going to be rough games. There's going to be games we're going to come on the next day. We're going to be ripping Ben Simmons. We're going to rip I don't know, George Hill. We're going to rip Dwight Howard. There's going to be games. We're going to be frustrated. But as Mike Gill said earlier on the Sports Bash today, this has the feel of 20 years ago when Iverson and the Sixers team made you squeeze the chair extra hard, made you pull your hair out. Well, my hair is so short, so maybe pull my hair out. I'm just kidding. No, but seriously, that team 20 years ago, you were on the edge of your seat night in and night out, wondering if they were going to win a game, and that's what this series is going to be. Hawks, Sixers, it's going to be fun. Coverage begins right here, 1 o'clock on 97.3 ESPN this Sunday. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. I'll be back tomorrow with NBA insider Brandon Scoop B. Robinson.
Hey, South Jersey, this is Billy Schwein. Tune into The Locker Room every Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN. Each weekend in The Locker Room, you will get passionate sports talk from a fan's perspective, along with interviews with some of the biggest names in sports. That's every Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to noon in The Locker Room with me, Billy Schwein, on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, because nothing could be finer than talking sports with the Schweiner.